Over a decade ago, I started my businesses from zero. Today, we have over 500 employees across the world and annual sales in excess of $350 million. Today, I'm going to teach you about how we scaled our business and how you can do it too. In my business, we're in the property sector. We started as a property agency. What that means is we would sell other people's property and earn a fee for selling that property. Initially, it was just me and one more person added on, then over time we grew the team. Not only did we increase the headcount, but very importantly, we looked at horizontal integration and advancement. How is that? So, first we were selling property to other people, earning a fee. Then we started investing ourselves. So the point in time came that we were based in the UK, selling out entire buildings of UK property, London property specifically, to buyers in Hong Kong, Singapore, China, across the Far East. So when I realized that we're taking entire buildings and selling them out, I started going to the developers and saying, look, instead of me selling all these for you, what I'd like to do is I'd like to buy this building from you. So we started becoming investors. We'd then negotiate a discount, which would be around about the 10% mark. And then we go and do the exact same model and sell those exact same properties to the same people, but instead of earning a 2 or 3% commission, we're now earning 10%. Why? We slightly adjusted our business model. Instead of going to a developer and saying, I'm gonna sell your property for you, we started going to the developer and saying, I'm gonna buy all of them from you and give me a discount. So that was the first level of expansion that we did. Then after that, we started international diversification. We opened up our business in Dubai. We started doing real estate brokerage in Dubai, selling Dubai property to people in the United Kingdom and the United States. Today, that business alone employs over 250 people. A third thing, how we diversified is we went into development. So now from agency, we went into investment, and from investment, we went into development. So we buy our own land, we appoint architects and planners and designers to develop the design of the building, we achieve the planning permission, and then we go out and we use our sales team to sell these out to the market. We currently have over 3,000 properties completed and at various stages of development across the world. And along the way, all of the businesses, whether it was the agency, whether it was the investment, and now the development, everything we've kept. And how I managed to keep all those businesses running is by having the right people. And that is also one of the key things to growing a business and to scaling a business, is being able to identify and hire the right people, manage them, and make them productive. Now I'm going to tell you my philosophy on hiring and how that has enabled us to scale our business. The first and most important thing that has enabled me to scale the business to where it is today is having a solid base of lieutenants working with me. These are C-level executives who are reporting to me, but who are absolute powerhouses, who run entire divisions of the business with little to no interference from me whatsoever. If I didn't have that, I would not be able to do this. I have people running entire businesses themselves, and I have people running entire divisions of my businesses without me having any involvement. The key when it comes to this part is hiring A-grade talent. The first thing is the hiring process. So often what will happen is that after 3-4 months of doing interviews and seeing dozens of people, we just get bored of it and we compromise. We know deep down that the person in front of me is not the A-grade candidate. However, just for the sake of closing that box off and getting it done, we will offer someone the job and we will hire them. Don't do that. You end up spending a year, 6 months, or even more than that in time, energy, and money on that person, and they just never had it. When you're hiring, make sure you spend the time as long as it takes to find the person who is the perfect suited to you. When you meet them, you want to hire that person who you're like, anything you talk about, every subject you want to know about, they know everything about it. They surprise you with information, they give you knowledge that you didn't even know. Now, when you walk out of that interview, you say, F, I need that person. I don't care what happens, that is the person I need. When you get that feeling inside you, that's the person you need to hire. Don't compromise on that. The second thing is, and again, it's a mistake I've made, is trying to find someone cheap. Let's say a role is worth £100,000 a year. You have 3 different options of candidates to choose from, you go for the guy who wants £90,000 because you're like, you know what, I'm saving 10K. Don't do it. Absolutely not. You're better off finding the best talent, paying that person, that girl or that guy, paying them 120, 30, 40, 50, even going 50% above budget, but making sure you get that A grade talent, because they will give it back so much to you. They will make you so much more money in the long run. A little bit extra you're paying them will make absolutely no difference. Do not save on human capital. Human capital is where you need to pay the highest money to get the best people. I'm going to come back to that and give you some more information on that, on how Netflix used that to become the global giant they are. Third thing is, remember this, no A-grade player is ever applying for a job on LinkedIn, Indeed, or any other portal. A-grade players, they might get made redundant, they could get fired, could happen, but as soon as that happens, or as soon as they're looking for a job, they've got 3-4 different options. If you want an A-grade player, you've got to pull them out of a role. You've got to get a headhunter, or you've got to find a referral, and you've got to pull that person out of a role, because they ain't on the job market. They're not sitting around looking for jobs. Opportunities are waiting for them. So remember that. A-grade players are not on the market looking for jobs. You've got to take them out of a role to bring them to you. And you've got to win them over to get them in your company. A key quality within A-grade players is that they are self-sufficient. They're not people who you need to motivate, who you need to give pep talks to. These are people who are proud of their work and proud of what they do. They take pride in their careers and in who they are. When you hire these people, they will do things themselves. And so it's very important with that is that you don't try and micromanage them. As entrepreneurs, especially in the early days when we're used to controlling every single button on our spaceship, on our aeroplane, we're used to having our fingers on every button. We're obsessed with then trying to micromanage everyone, micromanaging the details of what they're doing. When you're scaling your business and when you're moving out of that zone, absolutely not. You're hiring an A-grade player, you need to give them anything you give them to do, you need to give them 3 things. You give them the deadline, the target of what they need to achieve, and the resources available to them. The rest of it, how they're going to achieve that, what direction they're going to take, where they're going to go to get there, you leave that all to them. That's not your job. You give them those 3 details and you let them perform. You try and micromanage them, those A-grade players are leaving. But very important to note, this can only be done with A-grade players. You need to have A-grade talent to work with them in this way. If you haven't got A-grade talent, you will be stuck in that micromanagement process. Now, what I mentioned about Netflix, the founder of Netflix, Reed Hastings, he's got a book called No Rules Rule. Amazing, brilliant book, recommended to everyone to read. Now, in that book, he explains there came a stage in the early 2000s when the dot-com bubble burst, and Netflix, due to funding drying up, had to fire 50% of their staff. Reed Hastings and his co-founder, they sat around with their head of HR and they discussed different ways of how they're going to let go 50% of their headcount overnight. They said, okay, what about if we keep all the people who stayed in the company longest and fire all those who have come in more recently? They discussed, what about if we look at, okay, who's got family and children, who's got people dependent on them, who's got responsibilities, and we keep them, and we fire all the single people who can easily find a new job, etc. In the end, what they decided on was they would keep every single person who they could not tolerate possibly going to a competitor of theirs. Then what happened is, on the day Reed Hastings, I believe it was in the car park, he called all of the staff out and he stood there and he gave them all the speech. And he explained that with a heavy heart, he had to do this. There were people who'd worked in the company since the day it started, who'd put their blood, sweat and tears into this startup at the time. And he had to explain to them all that, look, we're reducing the headcount by 50% and you will, I think it was a message on a desk or whatever it was, and how everyone was going to find out of who's being let go. Everyone went back into the office and they all found out who was getting let go, based on the principle of we're only going to keep the people who we cannot tolerate, possibly fathom going to a competitor. And that day, Reed explains that in the office, people were crying, hugging, and at the end of the day, they thought, you know what? this is the death of Netflix. This is the death of our company. And they went away saying we should have figured out a different way to do this, because by reducing 50% of our headcount, we've destroyed our organization. Next day they came to the office, and surprisingly he found there was a buzz in the office. It was very positive. And as time went on, that next quarter, that next 6 months, and that next year was the highest performing year for Netflix in its entire history. Now, it makes no common sense. How can you reduce your headcount by 50%, slash half your workforce, and now have your highest performing year ever in an environment where technology is down, the dot-com bubble has just burst, the entire industry is falling apart? How does that happen? And as they went deeper into it, what they figured out was that what they got left with at that time was all A-grade players. They removed all the B, B+, and C team players, and they got left with just purely A team players. And that combination of all A team people together augmented them and made them achieve something that was unachievable before. Why was it unachievable before? Because now, let me give you an example. Let's say you got 3 A team players and 1 B player. They're all working on this project together. What does the B player do? Gets to 5 o'clock. Guys, it's about time to leave now, isn't it? All of a sudden, what happens is everyone else starts thinking about the same thing as well. 10 past 5, everyone's wrapped up and left. The B player pulls all those 3 A players down to his B level. So when you remove that 1 B player, that's when you get that A performance from A players. And from there on, I have so strongly believed in that and implemented in my organization, and it has done magic. Without this, the growth that we've seen in our organization could not have been achieved. And don't get me wrong, on a junior level, it's not always achievable, and we haven't achieved it. But on a senior level, on C-level executives, I have all A team players, all A players, and that has been the key to our success. So now when you've got all of this team structure in place, you've got people self-sufficient, running businesses, running divisions for you, this frees up your time to do the one role that only you can do as the entrepreneur, as the CEO leading the business. And that is work on the big vision of the organization, is on creating opportunities. You've got all these 18 players. To keep them, what you now have to do is you've got to make sure your business keeps growing and you keep giving them bigger and bigger things to work on. Because 18 players, they thrive from achievement. They want to do more. They want to go bigger. And then that's what frees up your time to grow your business, look at bigger opportunities, expand, and grow globally. This reminds me of Isaac Newton's quote, which I love, which is, if I have seen further, it has been by standing on the shoulders of giants. And that is what growth in business is truly about. If you want to grow your business to a global scale, to a huge scale, you've got to be able to assimilate a team of A-grade players, manage them, run that elite team, and you can dominate globally.